Hello YouTube, this is Sam Gerrans from quarternight.com. Today is Thursday the 3rd of November 2022. I'm just out taking my daily constitutional. This is where I go, the park, some buildings, etc. Anyway, I'm not going to devolve into a sort of tourism vlog or anything like that. I've got some thoughts and I'm still awaiting my computer back, but anyway, that's why I'm using my phone. But I had some things to say about what's going on with the sort of east-west dichotomy, Russia and the BRICS country on the one hand, and then the sort of psychotic West on the other. And these are there. I've written down. I've actually got some notes, which is going to hopefully make a bit of a difference. So my first thought is that the West is irrational, hysterical. It's an irrational, hysterical form of materialism based on usury, utilitarianism, pragmatism, and atheism. So that's what it is. And I'm going to get to what Russia and the BRICS countries are in a moment. But just want to say that this is, I'm not inveighing against, but it's really a sort of a criticism of the conservatives. For a long time I've invaded against what I call libtards, but there's so much material out there from more conservative leaning people who correctly understand that the West is nuts, but the solution is just actually a continuation of the same problem. Anyway, now I'm going to get into what Russia is. Russia is a rational, calm form of materialism based on usury, utilitarianism, pragmatism, and atheism. Actually, I mean, people talk about Russia is the sort of orthodox country. Sure, in some sort of nominal way that's true, but I bet you if you stopped 100 Russians and asked them to explain to you their entire understanding of the Bible, of the Christian Bible, that would be a very short conversation. So, sure, it's true in a sense that most people who live in Liverpool support Liverpool, but not all of them would be able to list the history. Well, actually, no, put it this way: I think the average inhabitant of Liverpool would know a lot more about Liverpool football team than the average Russian would know about the Orthodox Church or the Bible, anything like that. Anyway, the point I want to get to is this. So, hold on. So, the conservative argument in America amongst people who, and I fully understand, have had a gutful of all of this insanity, their solution is tied to, one way or another, it's either a form of when enough people wake up, which is insane for a reason which should become clear as we continue, in that it's to do with democracy. So they think that more democracy is the solution, and so by democracy what they mean is that everyone gets involved, and the second part of it is a technical solution. There's always a technical solution to the problem. Now, I'm using the word technique here as Jacques Ellul uses it in his extremely interesting book, The Technological Society. What he means by it is a form of rationalism whereby traditional considerations don't matter. It's all based on rationality and pragmatic outcomes. I suppose the archetype of this would be Ford. With his production line. This is an example of technique, but you get technique in everything. In government, you get it in, for example, administration. You get it everywhere. What we're using now to communicate is an expression of technique, and the whole idea behind technique, which is a sort of religion, is that the solution to the problems which technique creates is more technique. So there you are. That's what you'll find with the conservatives, is that it's either more technique is needed or a new application of technique, but technique will always be there as part of the problem. Part of the solution. And democracy. Okay, so those are what that's what's being put forward as the solution. But the problem is that this is the actual problem. I'm going to go back this way, so a load of noise down there. Technique caused the problem in the first place, okay? And the problem with democracy is, and obviously it's not going to be a very popular way of, a popular view, but the problem with democracy is reality. And the reality is most people are really, really stupid. It just is true. I didn't make that reality, don't blame me. If you don't believe me, just go outside and just look around. You'll soon see that that's actually true. So the problem with the whole of the democracy narrative, mythos, is that it's trumped by reality. Anyway, that's the first point. Yeah. The thing is about democracy is that it is really a function, to some extent, of technique. And what it does is it pretends that your opinion matters. Now, the real rulers know that this isn't true, but to some extent it kind of is true, because there is, as Stalin said, quantity has a quality all of its own. And so the new quality is quantity. Now, it used to be under the medieval system or under the Vedic system that quantity was understood to be largely irrelevant. What really mattered was quality. In a democracy, quality, you cannot be allowed to enter into it, because that's to do with reality. And my point is this, is that eventually, if you have democracy, i.e. pretending that morons' opinions are worth something, if you go along with that, if that's your baseline, you end up in an idiocracy by definition. And so what I'm trying to say is that the West is it is delusional and it is insane. It's delusional and insane because it's more advanced than Russia. Russia's backward, okay? But Russia has to pay lip service to democracy and technique. The things that I listed up here: usury, utilitarianism, pragmatism, and basically essentially atheism. And what will happen is that all of these countries, if they continue to practice democracy, in inverted, whatever we mean by that, and technique, they will end up as completely la as the West. That's what I'm trying to say. So by looking to more of the problem to solve the thing which has happened, you're just inevitably making it worse. And the problem with both technique and democracy is that they're predicated on accepting a priori the problems which the people who espouse this nonsense are claiming to want to solve. So yes, conservatives use the symptom, or are trying to use the symptom, to cure the cause. So all that in summary is that what you have is, with the East-West thing, the hysterical, effeminate, completely crazy West, well, collective West, with the more mature, rational East, Russia, BRICS. It's actually a false dichotomy. Because they're using exactly the same techniques. They're both using technique in the Ilalian sense, and they all have to pay, even if they all have to pay lip service to democracy. In Russia, we have a democracy. Putin has to be voted in by the majority of people, and even if you're living in somewhere which is a sort of, more like Saudi Arabia or somewhere like that, the will of the people still has an influence, purely because of what I said before, which is, as Stalin said, quantity has a quality all of its own. And eventually that all leads to insanity. It has to, because the majority of people are really thick. And more than that, they're selfish, stupid, short-term thinkers. They just are. And that's all right. It sounds like I'm being nasty. I'm not. I'm just like, if I was describing a balloon, I would say it's round. Let's say it's a hot air balloon. It floats, in the sky. It has these qualities. I'm not being nasty about balloons. I'm just describing what balloons are and what they do. So there's that bit. So it's really a contrast, or a problem between quality on the one hand, which would be the medieval Vedic or Christendom system, where you have strong people who do the fighting and the killing, wise and smart people who do the wisdom and the religion, and then everyone else who does the work. And this is because there is no technique to elide all of this out of what's really, to sort of obfuscate this. See, today we have washing machines and things invented this stuff. This is technique, and it separates us, and we've got all this time to sit around and think about what kind of Pringles we like or where we want to go on holiday. We didn't have all this before. I'm not extolling the virtues of living in a pre-industrial society. I'm saying that these things, technique, leads to green-haired crazy women taking their clothes off and screaming and shouting, okay? Not wanting to have children, wanting to kill your children and take all your money. That's where it goes. It's nothing to do with being in the West or being in the East. And traditional values aren't something you can just bolt on to technique and democracy, because they are intrinsically of a different fibre, different stuff. There's no way out. It's either democratic and or technical solutions, or traditional values. There is no combining these two, and pretending to do so is just that. It's just a pretense. And the reason why Russia is in advance of the deteriorating, hysterical, effeminate West is because it's actually behind in terms of the democratic, technical, if you want to call it that, culture. But give it another generation, it'll be there. I can see it. I mean, I live here, I walk around, I see. We already have the blue hair, green haired, Dulali kind of women here, and they'll reproduce, and in a generation it'll just be exactly the same as you've got there, if Russia continues to prosper in terms of technique and hold to. In fact, you don't really need democracy, but democracy really exacerbates the effectiveness of technique. That's what it does. But if you were to take away democracy, technique will still lead you to the same insanity. It's unavoidable. I'm not saying this because I want to be nasty to people. I'm saying this is just what this is the nature of the beast. So anyway, solution. Well, I don't suppose you'll be surprised to hear that there are only two. There are two ways out of this, and that's it. And if you want, I'll get to those in a minute, but if you want some more on these, I would suggest reading Ted Kaczynski's, I can't remember what he called it, his statement, manifesto. Now, and reading Jacques Sillal's The Technological Society, and also, while you're at it, by his propaganda. Now, I've been attacked in the comments before. Oh, but you're suggesting we read books other than the Quran. Yeah, I do read other books, and I assume in my listenership an intelligence level. That's why I make, as I've said before, long, boring videos. I don't make clickbait. I don't make TikTok videos. I'm not making, a 5-second meme so you can send it to your friends. No, I make boring videos on purpose because I'm basically filtering out most of the dumb people. But unfortunately, a few of them manage to slip through the cracks and ask these kind of questions. And the answer is, yeah, I'm able to read and assume that people who watch my channel are able to read books that they don't agree with every single word, that this is not gospel. It's called expanding your horizons. Okay, so anyway, just to say that, because I had to block someone who was getting really silly, which is why I went through a phase of just shutting down all the comments. If you've ever had a channel, you know that it's the worst part of it. It's awful, and I'm having a hard enough time maintaining any sort of regular uploads. Anyway, what's the other one? Solution. Yeah, there were two. Neither of them will you like, probably. The first is what Ted Kaczynski basically advocates, and I don't advocate this for what it's worth, but because I think people are too lazy, too stupid, too solipsistic, and are easily controlled by the ruling elite. So I think it's just a sort of an expanded version of when enough people wake up. My opinion of most people, Well, it's not based. It's not. This isn't vitriol or something horrible based. Based in some sort of intrinsic flaw in me. It's just what I see, and you see it too. And if you pretend not to see it, then you're lying to yourself. Most people are dumb. Most people are selfish. I'm dumb and selfish some of the time too. We are. That's what we are. It's part of being a human being. But it's exacerbated in a system which is controlled and run and made apparently simpler by technique. Anyway, so Kaczynski. If you don't know anything about him, look him up. He's a very interesting character. He's still alive. I found him. I know where he is. He's in a maximum security hospital in, I think it's, if I'm not mistaken, South Carolina. Could be, maybe. I wanted to send him some of my books, but they wouldn't let me. They wouldn't let me because they had to come through Amazon. And so I tried to buy my own books from Amazon to send to him, and it still wouldn't let me do it. I don't know why. If you're able to send to him any of my books, please do, because I think if he's still alive, he might enjoy them. Anyway, his idea is based on the idea of when enough people wake up, which is intrinsically flawed by definition, because people won't do anything. As I've often said, if the price of overthrowing the tyranny was to give up your iPhone, all these social justice warriors, all these people out there claiming that they're fighting for the good of humanity, they wouldn't do it. Of course they wouldn't do it. They wouldn't do it. Anyway, so his solution is basically it's sort of Ludditism on steroids, destroying the industrial base and going back to living in a medieval society. I think he doesn't quite say this, but to summarise, I'd say what he's really talking about is a pre-electricity society. Take electricity out. Now, I think that's basically where that's the sweet spot as far as he's concerned. And I would add to this that it would have to be a medieval society based on the caste system, which is actually reality, based on quality rather than quantity, because some people are just brighter and cleverer or stronger or taller or faster or whatever it is, and it's only a technological society which can allow people to indulge these delusions. If you don't believe me, go outside and look around you. And I would add to it, it would be a theocracy. I'm not talking about a particular theocracy. I'm saying that it would necessarily have to be a theocracy. So that's the best case scenario if you want to put it into those types of terms. So that presupposes an intelligent, cohesive mass of people waking up one morning and deciding, for some reason, to stop being solipsistic, selfish, couch potatoes, worrying about what the government's going to do to them or not do to them, and becoming individual heroes. Sort of, I don't know, throwing off the shackles of what you might call democratic thinking and becoming, everyone's becoming like a Homeric hero attacking the walls of Troy. If you believe in that, happy you. I don't. The other alternative, and the far more likely one, and in fact the only other alternative, given the adherence to technique in the Ilalian sense, and or democracy. Democracy is not actually totally necessary for this. Democracy is it makes it worse. It makes the cancer metastasize quicker. The only solution is total annihilation. It's complete apocalypse. So, technical stroke democratic materialism is damned in all cases, other than, it's damned in all cases actually. But what I'm trying to say is there is no difference between that in the East, which is the hysterical effeminate version because it's more advanced, and what we have. Did I say no? That in the West, yeah. The Western, the collective West, where it's psychotic. It's like a 13-year-old girl, hysterical, and words mean nothing, contract means nothing, all of that. They just change, it's based on feelings. It's a feelings-based tyranny. But that's what you get to. This is a function of this democracy, which people are promoting as the solution, and technique, which people are promoting as the solution. And the second part is that the East, which for now is more manly, more rational, more reasonable, it honours contract, all of that, it's just a few steps behind the West. Because if it continues with technique and or democracy, it's going to end up with the same green-haired, screaming lunatics as you have in the West. Anyway, I wanted to put that out there because this idea, it's a false dichotomy. BRICS versus the psychotic West. They're the same thing. They are two wings of the same bird. They are of the same feather. The only difference is in slight colours of plumage for now, and that difference is just a matter of stages of maturity. Anyway, that's it. That's all for now. I'm going to leave it there. I hope everyone is well.